Hey everyone, welcome back to BiteSize. My name's Chris Fletcher. I'm the founder and CEO of Tech on Toast. This is the only webinar that introduces you to our approved partners from Tech on Toast. And today we're delighted to be joined by John Townsend. And hello, John, how are you?
Hi, Chris. I'm good. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. And John is from Ometis. Now, John, I'm going to make you do your job title because I tried to do it earlier on and I totally screwed it up. So what do you do at Ometis, John?
Yes, I'm the head hospitality data strategist at Ometis.
There you go. That's why I didn't try that on a Friday afternoon. And tell us, I know we're going to get into a bit of a deck and talk about Ometis, but if you can give us your top line level of what Ometis does, that'd be great to know.
Yeah, of course. We're a data consultancy. We acquired a company called Tahola late last year, and they specialize in hospitality. So that is one of the sectors that we really focus on. We've helped kind of over 250 businesses drive more value out of their data, and really drive some insight from the data they've got within the business. We're an end-to-end solution, so everything from data strategy, integrating solutions, working with you on those trusted platforms, and even looking now towards kind of the AI capabilities and predictive capabilities within the platform.
And I know you guys well. I know Tahola well because I'm a former customer. So at Prime Minister, I worked with Simon there, and we did exactly that. I had a load of data which we turned into actually some quite good strategies. So it was really useful. So I'm going to shut up, which is very rare. I'm going to let you talk. So I'm just going to share my screen. I'll share your deck. There we go. So take it away whenever you're ready. Yeah, talk us through.
Yeah. So as I said, we are an end-to-end data consultancy. So one of our key focuses is the hospitality industry. Tahola's worked within hospitality for 20 plus years, and was recently acquired by Ometis. That was late last year, and we're continuing that focus on hospitality. So that's a little bit about us. As you will all know from kind of recent news and articles, that the hospitality industry is under tremendous pressure, whether it's operators running at a loss. We've got venues that are closing. I think the latest stat from CJ was 2 venues a day had closed in the first half of the year. And then recent reporting from UK Hospitality was that half of all the job losses that we've kind of experienced within the country since the budget earlier this year have all come from hospitality. It feels like a constant barrage of bad news. And when we're speaking to operators, that's what they're telling us. And it's kind of these headwinds that hospitality are facing. So we really focus on what we can control, and using data from the various systems that hospitality's got to really make meaningful impact, and challenge kind of the preconceptions within the business and challenge the gut feel. So I guess the reality of hospitality, and like you, Chris, I've spent kind of the last 20 years working hospitality from site level to operations, and then more recently into finance positions. But the reality is quite different, is that everyone wants to drive a business forward. Kind of, you want to understand the KPIs and the key drivers that are driving the business forward, and everyone's got kind of this abundance of questions, and a lot of the time you're battling that internal noise of, you've got kind of a myriad of people all asking kind of various questions, and the issue is that you're making decisions, and the data you're providing can quite quickly become outdated. You've got maybe quite cumbersome reporting processes. Maybe you've kind of got to download all the data, and someone's got to transform it into something that kind of is what feels meaningful. And the best people in your business, majority of the time at driving that insight, spend most of their time just creating reports. And that's what we find from the operators that we speak to. So, and the reason that occurs is hospitality is full of an abundance of systems, and they are operationally brilliant systems. And many of the partners you work with, they've got brilliant solutions, but those solutions all sit in what we call a data silo. So they're all disconnected from what's going on outside of their remit. And whilst they are excellent at kind of handling the day-to-day operational tasks that they're required to, and supporting frontline teams in the running of the day-to-day business, they're maybe not necessarily the easy systems to pull some data from and to marry up with other sets of data from within the business. And it's something I battle with myself. As I said, I was head of FP&A for a UK-based company up until quite recently, and we had this whole plethora of systems that were brilliant and meant so much to the business, and the business relied on them so heavily. But what we needed to do was marry the data sets up from the different kind of systems that we were using. And the frustration that would occur was that it was quite challenging. And it kind of led to one of two things. It would either lead to myself or someone within my team spending quite a considerable amount of time downloading all that data, kind of dumping that data into one place and trying to pull something together, by which point it kind of becomes quite outdated. Or, and this was the real crux of the matter, was we relied on kind of gut feel and emotion and what we think is happening rather than what we know is happening. And that was something we were seeing more and more as we were adding in more systems and essentially more data. We think this is happening, so let's do this. So a little bit about me then. So I as I said, I'd spent kind of 20 years in hospitality, 6 or so in kind of more recently in finance roles, and everyone has these questions that they want answers to. So Monday morning would come and the operations team would want to know what labor was saying for the past week. The CFO would want the sales reports and he would want to present that to the board. And we'd have market directors saying, well, how did the promotions that we're running impact the business? And by the time you've kind of answered those questions, there's now another set of questions. And that set of questions is, well, what are we doing this week? And why is labor this week higher than last week? And you spend quite a lot of time looking backwards. So this is kind of what we discovered, why it's happened, is you've got this plethora of systems on the left-hand side, all sitting siloed, requiring that manual work that I spoke about. And what we do at Ometis is we funnel that data into one data platform that we build for our customers, and we pull all of that that granular and that transactional level data for our customers. We pull it into one data warehouse essentially, and from there we're able to kind of tie it together. And I guess our approach is potentially a little bit different to other people, is that we work on kind of ingesting this data from multiple platforms, building platforms that are future proofed. We know that AI is this burning platform, this hot topic that everyone wants to talk about. So we're ensuring that our solution is future proof, ready for that. And then we also remove the need for manual kind of work to be done to pull that data together to produce reports. So we can automate reports at set days and times of the week, and we can share those reports with the kind of the right people at the right time and in the right format. Some people work best off a PDF, others want to kind of go in and use more of a self-serve capabilities to get their data. And what we found is that the power of these solutions is when you can bring multiple data together. So when you compare sales with labor, but then also with bookings, and you can do that on a more granular level, look at it kind of by hour and kind of even by 15-minute time slot if your EPOS provider can support that. As I said, we can make this solution quite agile, and we can provide kind of insight and invaluable intelligence really to the operations team, who essentially are the people that are making those day-to-day decisions that will fundamentally change the business. We can sit centrally in a head office setting, and we can talk about what we'd like to do and what the desired outcome would be. But our ops team and the teams in sites are the ones who are making those day-to-day decisions. So it's all about empowering them with knowledge and insight, as opposed to just kind of sending them a barrage of information and saying, we'll draw your own conclusion. So from speaking to our operators, and as I say, we work with a whole multitude of operators, and these are kind of the hot topics that we're seeing within the hospitality industry, whether it's promotion analysis, labor headcount, cover utilization, people wanting to dive into their hourly sales or the discounts. But the two that kind of keep coming back for us are labor analysis and stock control. They're the two that the majority of our operators are speaking about the most and really wanting to understand. So how do I perfect and kind of my labor efficiency and execute kind of the most seamless and kind of most controlled rota that provides the team with the tools they need to perform on the day, but also the customers with what they need whilst they're visiting us at peak or even off-peak times. And then the other point is, how do I implement stock control measures, and how do I maximize, I guess, profitability when we know that the supply chain is under stress? So labor, I mean, I spoke about, and Chris, I'm sure you've run countless webinars where labor has been a hot topic. I know we discussed it on one most recently, but when it comes to labor, we see it that when you're sitting down in kind of at the very start of that journey to do a rota, you're straight away having to pull information from different systems, whether it's what did we do last week, what did we do last year, what's the budget, what's the forecast, how many bookings have I got for next week, how many bookings did I have kind of next week this time last year, or even what's the weather like if you've got a large outside area or a terrace. So we already know from that starting point that you're having to dive into kind of multiple different systems. So we help operators bring those systems together, so you've not got to kind of dance around and jump from system to system. And then on top of that, we can then add another layer, which is, well, we can learn and we can ingest that data and start to make predictions. We can start to make kind of informed decisions on what we know is going to happen from the historic data that we've got. So if we can look at kind of the bookings we've got for the week ahead, or we can look at the bookings we had on the Monday of this same week last year, and we can see how they're going to scale, we can start to make informed decisions on the rotoring that we need in kind of the week to come and the weeks after that. So whilst our system is great at looking back, it then also helps people kind of accurately predict what's going to happen in the future, and really provide their teams with rotas that support the business and support their teams as well. So we can make those suggestions to finance teams and to ops teams, and even to GMs and site level teams, and say, this is what the flow of sales is looking like. This is our suggestion for labor. And the example I've got on the screen there is an operator that we work with, where we paired their sales, which is the blue bars on that bar chart, by hour, and then we overlaid a line which was their number of labor hours used. And I've put the glaring obvious dip in with the green arrow, and that is them saying, well, that's where our hours tail off on I think that's a Saturday, actually, on a Saturday afternoon. Now, I guess you could say, well, they do reduce hours in those quiet times on the afternoon, but that flow of hours doesn't necessarily follow the curve of sales. Now, it's not going to perfectly. Of course, you've got to do prep in the morning for the day. You've got staff to go on breaks before evening service, and maybe you've got some re-prepping to do, or restocking your bars. But you would expect, I guess, with your operator's hat on, that your labor hours would peter off in that afternoon period. But very quickly, from bringing those systems together, that customer we were working with discovered that wasn't necessarily happening, even if kind of the voice on the ground was saying, yeah, we are reducing our labor hours on a Saturday when sales peter off. So this gave our operators and this customer a kind of a really, really holistic view of different systems, and there was the quick win for them, of saying, well, actually, what we thought was happening on a Saturday afternoon is happening marginally, but not to the level we would expect. And it's not just sales and labor. So we can bring in bookings into this. We can bring in compliance. Any system that you use, and our customers use a whole kind of multiple of systems. Any system that's used, we can bring into our platform. And I guess then the beauty of it is that when you're looking to compare sites, historically, you've always done that with by region or by area manager, by ops manager. But our system is built to enable you to do more. So we build in what we call business drivers that are key metrics that our customers want to compare sites with. So it could be, well, which of our sites is set over 2 floors, or which of our sites has got multiple bars within the building, which of our sites have got outside areas, how many two tops of our restaurants got. And we can use all those to compare like for like businesses. So you're not just comparing particular sites within a region or a geographical region, you're then comparing them to actually what makes them tick, what drives that rota, what drives that sales analysis, is all those drivers that kind of often, well, more often than not, go overlooked because they're quite difficult to use and quite challenging to use to compare. So our system opens that door to say, right, well, let's find that site's true peer and let's see how they're comparing and against their peers. So we really help operators kind of analyze that data, provide their users and their senior stakeholders and decision makers with knowledge, really kind of opposed to information. And as I said earlier on, the other piece that we're really working with operators at the moment, our customers at the moment, is stock control. It's a huge area of focus, and be that from the stock coming into the building on your ordering, or the prep once it's landed in site. But we know that it's a concern, and we've spoken kind of on webinars before about kind of it all starting from that forecast and getting that forecast right. Because how can you order if you don't know what your forecast is? Well, how do you place an order? And that's when you just kind of fall into that trap of just ordering the same amounts all every week in, week out. I've actually just returned from a holiday, and packing, as anyone will know, for a family holiday is a military operation, but you can only do that if you know what you need to pack. Have you checked the weather? Is it going to be sunny? How many pairs of shorts do I need? Do I need a jumper? So you do that in your own life. So why wouldn't we do that within the business? So we start by ensuring that our customers are prepared for that forecast and have got that prediction of sales in. And what we then do is we use our historic data that we've got in the platform and our learning capabilities to say, right, well, based on that forecast, this is how much you're going to sell on each day. And we can do that on a product level. So we can look at how many burgers or pizzas or bottles of beer that you're going to sell you need to have prepped. And we can do it on an ingredient level as well, so that we can provide that to the teams who are placing the orders to say, well, this is how many burger buns you need to order, and this is how many kind of kegs of beer you need to order to service that amount of pints. So it's not just the day-to-day go and prep this amount of food. You've got to make sure you've got it in the building. And we know there's been kind of some consolidation of menus recently within some of our customers. So it's about making sure that when the customers are visiting you, you've got your crafted, your best menu always available for that customer. And this is, I guess, how we support our customers in making sure that happens. There's nothing worse than having a packed restaurant on a Saturday and not being able to sell your top selling dish because you've sold out, or even worse, not being able to do that on a quiet Tuesday afternoon because you didn't order enough and it's not come in. So we use all the data available to us from EPOS and from booking systems to really make quite clear kind of definitions of when we think those sales are going to come in. We obviously add in a buffer and a flex, but it's all about making sure that the product is available for the customers, and also making sure there's not kind of an abundance of waste at the end of the day, which obviously kind of just falls straight onto the P&L. And then we can take that information, provide it to kind of finance teams for margin calculations. We can support procurement teams as they're working on kind of negotiations with new suppliers or new distributors. And then we can provide that information automatically, not just weekly, but on some cases, we actually provide that daily and it lands in the inbox of the head chef each morning, so they know exactly what's coming for that day. And if they've got to place an order, what is going to be required. And I've spoken quite a lot on kind of two particular topics there, but these are some of the customers that we work with. And for the majority of them, it was all about, initially, the quick win was, well, let's automate that reporting. And we can do that from sales data to events, to promotions, to bookings. Obviously, everyone's starting to talk about Christmas now, and you're seeing bits pop up of customers preparing for it. The business I was at up until quite recently, I had my first taste of the Christmas menu in February this year. They're geared to go for this already, and their Christmas reporting is automated. It lands in their inbox 3 times a week, and that will increase as we get closer and closer to Christmas. But that is kind of a very quick overview of who we are at Ometis, what we do, and how we support hospitality customers in a whole host of different settings, be it bars, restaurants, QSR restaurants, hotels. We work with them all, and they all face quite similar challenges.
It's super fascinating, isn't it? The fact actually that we find that no matter how much data we have, we think that data is going to help us most of the time. It's going to solve our problem, but actually, the reality is we're probably causing ourselves more problems with all the data we've got. And actually, having someone like you guys to come in and just put it in a format where it's digestible, I think it's the hardest thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just and usable, I suppose.
Yeah, and what we found is that everyone wants the data, and you provide them with data. And I remember this in my previous role, and people just go, "Well, just give me the data. Just give me an Excel with all the information in." The danger of that is that you send that data to 5 different people, and you end up with 5 different outputs and outcomes, and everyone interrogates that data in a slightly different way and can actually draw the conclusion that they wanted to draw anyway. And what we focus on is really providing kind of key insights for the business to drive that business forward, and supporting operators as they look to grow. And rather than just giving them this dump of data, is actually giving them kind of 2, 3, 4, 5 different levers that they can pull to really help their business grow, and they can focus on those KPIs consistently. And Chris, you will know, we've all had it where one particular KPI has been flavor of the month, and then they drop off as soon as they appear. So it's all about making sure that the business can look long term, focus on what is really going to move the needle, focus on those marginal gains, and really support operators as they look to kind of challenge those headwinds that we spoke about right at the start.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's definitely a lot of them around. Look, and the reason we do these webinars is to kind of give people a little bit of a snapshot of what you guys do and get involved. But if people want to get a lot more detail and probably meet you in person, have a proper chat, what's the best way to get hold of you?
Yeah, so absolutely, I can share my contact details with you. You can reach out to myself or any of the team at Ometis. We'd love to meet some operators, and we quite regularly do demonstrations of the platform, so you can see the platform in more detail, and we can understand your business as well. And for part, I mean, I guess the key thing for us is kind of, if it matters to you, it matters to us, and
Yeah.
we want to understand what the challenges those operators are facing, and work with you on a solution. It's not a one size fits all. We've learned techniques over the years of what we know has supported operators and what works. But if you've got a particular challenge and a way that you would like to approach it, we're all ears.
Lovely. Well, look, thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate your time on a Friday afternoon. And if you need to get hold of Ometis, you can check them out on the Tech on Toast website, on our marketplace. And what's your web address? Ometis.co.uk. Look, thanks, John. Have a lovely weekend. Appreciate your help. And we'll see you all soon.
Brilliant. Cheers.